Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. This is Robert Plank from DFYpodcast.com, and Everett O'Keefe from IgnitePress.us is here. And Everett is a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and international #1 best-selling author. His most recent solo work, his very nice book, is called Power of the Published. Now, Everett has helped create and launch more than 100 best-selling books for his clients. So you can imagine that with Ignite Press, he's seen what to do, what not to do, and maybe even some of those hidden, seeking, lurking questions that you wish you could ask. Well, now we can get it straight from the source. We're going to find out what you need to know to get started on your journey to becoming a best-selling author, making sure it's a hit, making sure it's something that changes your entire business and life. So, Everett, glad to be speaking with you.
Hey man, Robert, this is great. I'm so glad you had me on. What a kick. You're doing a great thing by what you're doing. So I fully applaud you.
Well, thank you very much. And encouragement is so important, right? And positivity, because there's not enough of that in the world. And I'm also very much amazed by what you do. As we both know, people have good ideas and they're blocked and they're stuck and they say, I don't know how to craft that message and how to put in the words and how to put in the time. And you make dreams come true. So tell us what you do, and tell us especially why you and Ignite Press really stand out.
Thanks. So we're a hybrid publisher, and most people haven't really heard of hybrid publishing, but it sits in between traditional and self-publishing. Traditional publishing has all sorts of challenges to it, not to mention it's very difficult to get into. And for anyone who wants to create a piece that's going to be a marketing piece for their business, it's going to take them 18 months or more to wind through the publishing, the process in traditional. And then you sell your content. You don't own your content anymore. Self-publishing is, on the other hand, is great because you own everything. You get all your books at cost. You get all the royalties flow to you, but you also have to do everything. And if you screw any one piece of that up, it can be a bit of a disappointment. So in hybrid publishing, we feel like we really embrace the best of both worlds. When we take on a project, we set everything up in accounts our clients own, so that they own their IP, they don't have to sacrifice it or sell it, and they get all the royalties and have complete control and get their books at cost. And so that really ultimately they can leverage what is one, if not the most effective marketing thing that you can ever do for your business. So this is what we do at Ignite Press, is we help people get their message out so that they can leverage it in their business or their brand and become best-selling authors, which they can leverage that for the rest of their life.
Very nice and very exciting. And so it's great that you provide the best of both worlds, because as you say, you and I have probably both heard all kinds of horror stories, right? You hear about the author that they have to put a ton of money down and they end up with a garage full of books. I had a friend that put out a book with a publisher and then they wouldn't let him do any speaking engagements. And he was like, but isn't that the point? I need to speak to sell my book. And he signed some kind of contract. And then he said
Brutal.
that, yeah, it's super cruel. And then the other extreme you say is, oh, well, I found a site where I can upload a Word document and that's great. But then what about the 1,002 other pieces that you have to do to market it? And so kind of to really set us straight and to get us on the basics here, like what is publishing a book all about? Like what have you seen happen? Like if someone puts out a book, they can speak, they can get clients, they can get known, but what sort of doors open and what opportunities are there when someone puts a book out with you?
Well, I'll give a story of Cindy. We had a client come to us, and this is not her real name. She came to us about 2, 3 months before she was going to attend, not speak at, but attend a conference in Dubai about medical tourism. And she had written a manuscript, and she was like, man, it would be so great if I could walk into that conference and have some copies of my book to give out to key people. So we helped her make that happen. We edited and laid out and published her book. She walked into that conference. I don't know if she had 5 or 10 copies of her book, something like that, in Dubai. And on the first day, she handed out some copies to some key people. Later that night, as she's walking through the lobby and she sees someone sitting there reading her book, and every author wants to see that, right?
Yeah.
She's like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then the next day, a couple of those people came up to her and approached her, and they wanted to talk shop. And the end result was she left that conference that she was just attending. She left that conference with relationships that ended up being several very lucrative contracts for her. One of those people asked her to be the contributor to a textbook in the industry. Another person hired her all year long, and another one actually sponsored her to come back and be a speaker at that same conference the next year. And so, in that one fell swoop, that book gave her these relationships that went from basically being not known to being a speaker on the international stage. And that's the kind of stuff that a book can do. It's crazy, and it just does something that it's just so difficult to accomplish through any other marketing channel.
That is magic. That is beyond cool. And I like how you have that phrase there of the key people, because it's really easy and tempting to fall into the trap of writing the encyclopedia or saying, I don't even know what this is leading towards, or am I just writing my own biography? But it seems to be a recurring lesson to think of, okay, who do I want to help and who do I want to get in front of and who do I want to kind of have help me in exchange and like raise my profile and those sorts of things. And there's like little nuggets like that help so much, right? Just thinking like, okay, if I'm putting out my book, the difference between a book that sucks and a book that is amazing, like what you described, is who am I speaking to and who do I want to help? So how do you shape and craft the raw materials that come from your authors into something that has all these results like you just described?
Well, first, I just want to applaud you because this is something I know that is significant for you and the brand that you create is you're helping to educate people on marketing and realizing that a product made for everybody is really a product made for nobody, right? That you have got to narrow down, niche down so that you are speaking the proper language. And I think that that's absolutely key that people first understand who their target market is. And and that strategy, and many people employ it in video, and I think you can employ it in books. That's really effective is just to decide who's one person in your target market to speak to, and put a name on that person. It might be someone you actually know and actually serve, and if you can do that, then you can begin to learn and understand really what their challenges are, what their fear and pain points are, that type of thing. But I think that language is really important. Robert, in fact, you brought to mind there's a guy that he wanted to get in front of. He created a target list of 5 CEOs he wanted to get in front of, and he wrote a book for those 5 CEOs. Those were literally his target market. It was not every CEO or anything like that. He wrote it specifically with these 5 in mind. And when he was done, he sent them each a copy of the book. And he said, I wrote this book with you in mind, and I'd love to sit down and have a conversation. And he landed conversations with 3 of those 5 CEOs. And it was absolutely profitable for him to have done that. He's the only person I know that has written for that small of a market. 5 people is a pretty small target market, but pretty darn amazing.
It is, and totally doable these days, especially with something like LinkedIn, right? Like you find those CEOs, and if they are a decent business person at all, they're probably liking, reposting, commenting. You can almost maybe like just snoop on their feed a little bit and figure out what they're all about and what they're thinking about, what interests them, and write it for them. And this is great because since it seems like the beginning of marketing time, then there's been the ivory tower talk of the customer avatars. And I always hated that, right? They say, invent a character and think of what his name is, what his age is. And then it really came to a head when one time I was on a coaching call and this doctor, he said, somebody told me I should think of 12 customer avatars and they all had names. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're like inventing all this fictitious stuff. And I said, just who's your like your best customer? Who's your best target? And sure, there's other fish in the sea, but who can you target? And the other people that are your people, they're maybe adjacent to that. They're like maybe like a lookalike audience, so to speak. But I think that's huge of who's a actual real person and you know them and you talk to them or you picture their voice in your head and someone that you can really help. And it's just this is a recurring theme so far in our conversation, this idea of the people and how important people are. And even like on your LinkedIn, I noticed that there's a lot of like resharing from your authors and like, hey, our author put out this book and our author did that. And it's kind of almost intangible, right? Because you think, well, if I'm connecting with this person or looking at their profile or writing for them, it's hard to see the immediate reward for that. But it really just seemed like that's the difference between a book that lands and one that doesn't.
Yeah, it's funny. You made me think of an analogy that kind of came up yesterday, and we were talking about it's like just take a trampoline and you throw a bowling ball in the middle of the trampoline, okay, and it creates this. It sags, right? It starts to it pulls down. Well, if you can imagine, you also had a bunch of ping pong balls in there, and that the bowling ball is your target. That's your avatar. That's that one person that you're speaking to. And all the ping pong balls are everyone else that surrounds them. They're gonna get pulled in. They're gonna get pulled down into that by the weight of it. So it's a strange metaphor, perhaps, but I think it gets the point. And that's what allows you to speak just deeply to one. If you speak deeply to one and connect with that one, they're yeah, like you said, their lookalikes are going to come along with the journey as well. Um,
That's
and and I don't know how much you guys talk about repelling, but attracting and repelling, those are equally important parts of marketing, right? It's attract the right people, repel the wrong ones. And so if you're speaking the language of the right people, you're probably going to also repel the wrong ones. And that's so valuable. That way you're not spending time or dollars trying to market the wrong ones.
And if someone is the right fit for that, it further reinforces that. And it adds character, right? It adds personality to you. Think of guys like Dave Ramsey or Jim Cramer, like they definitely have there's a box and their people are in the box and there's a lot of people not in the box. And it's like you can tell very quickly, are you in there or are you not? And if you're not, that's okay. There's other books, but if you are, then you're on the right path.
Yeah, I there is a story that came up, and I don't know if I'm going to find it in my book quickly enough. I was just going to try to read it to you, but we had a guy, Dave Franklize is his name, and he makes no bones about being a Christian. He's a financial advisor and quotes Proverbs a lot in his book and that type of thing. And he had a review from a gal who basically said, he speaks my language. Like I'm reading this book and I totally get it. This is probably the most impactful book I've ever read. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And the reason is because he's speaking her language, and he's pulling no punches about it. And so he is at the same time that he is attracting her and he is probably repelling someone who just was like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm not gonna, connect with that person. And that's fine. All right.
Yes.
But what a deep connection to get that. Because and Robert, you talk about it with your people. If you're not going deep and you're just going shallow, then you're just like everybody else, and no one's gonna connect deeply enough to engage.
And we're living in this day and age where everything is super niche. Like, I don't know about you, but maybe in the 90s, any TV show, I would at least have heard about Cheers or Married with Children. But then sometimes I'll scroll through Facebook and they say, hey, this TV show, Slow Horses, is in its fifth season. There's TV shows I've never even heard, don't even know what it is. So there's so much stuff out there and it's so crowded that we kind of have to say, like, here's my little slice, but the world is so connected that your little slice is enough.
Yeah, I've heard that show's great, by the way.
Don't even
Haven't
know what it
watched
is. Maybe it's
it.
about horses.
I've heard it has nothing to do with horses. It has to
Oh,
do with spies, with old spies.
okay.
But no, but you're right. It's a crowded marketplace. And so if you only go an inch deep, you're not resonating. So you've got to go deep enough for people to connect. And I think that's what's special about books. Books are deep. Books are a deep dive. There's no marketing piece that you'll ever create that will allow you to speak directly into your client's mind for hours at a time, without walls being thrown up and without, commercial interruptions and, all of those things. It just speaks directly into their brain. I mean, heck, your client or your prospect may be taking you to bed with them, reading before they go to bed. They may be taking you to the toilet with them too, but
Oh, no.
like it's crazy how deeply you can connect. I call a book the closest thing that you can get to the silver bullet of marketing. You think that um, everyone's always looking for that killer app, right? The killer thing in marketing, and the book is the closest thing you can get. In fact, when you go find it, if you think about the book, it provides instant authority. It qualifies you for speaking in media. It provides long deserved recognition for all the work you've done in your industry. It places you in among an elite group. It eliminates competition. It's the ultimate stick method, by the way, helping your clients continue to be clients because they see you as an expert. They're like, well, he's the expert. I'm just going to stick with him. Um, it gives you access to a higher level of clientele. It sets aside objections. Um, Books are just freaking amazing, and it's so funny because I was at a conference one time, Robert, and it was a Kajabi conference, for the great marketing tool. And this guy goes, "So what do you do?" And I go, "I help people, publish books and become best-selling authors." He goes, "Books? Like books?" And he's like, "Not YouTube, not social media, not influencers." And I'm like, those things are all super valuable. Those are all super valuable. But what gives more credibility? What gives expert status, better than a book? I'm not sure. But anyway, that's kind of, so it was an interesting conversation.
And books are timeless. They're not just old fashioned, they're also new fashioned. I mean, you make a book, you're in the same company as like the Old Testament and Napoleon Hill and Tony Robbins and all that. And sure, but you think about the new stuff, right? The YouTubes and the TikToks and the apps, that's all disposable, that's all temporary. And people are still reading books on their phones and their Kindles. And I would probably say that I think I read more now as an adult than when I did when I was in school, just because there's more of it available. And I still over in my office bookshelf in the closet, I still have a few handful of print books. So it's like I'm as much as it's easy to say like, oh well, Best Buy stopped selling DVDs or like video will all go to streaming, but like I don't think books will ever go out of style.
It's funny. And now that I think about it, some of the biggest streamers are still writing books.
Yeah.
You go talk to Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Or, Seth Godin or whoever, we've still, it's, I don't see, yeah, I really don't see them going out of style. They may change format, like we've got ebooks and now audio is huge, right? Audio is now outselling ebooks for the first time, and probably going to continue because of the convenience of streaming. So our delivery method may change, but man, there's something about the long format. It's like it allows you to communicate everything you need to communicate instead of, man, I got to fit this into a 2-minute video.
Powerful. And so, and this is all has great benefits, but then the next question then becomes, well, it seems like a big undertaking, right? Like figuring out who I'm speaking to and all of the writing and the structuring and then afterwards marketing. And I'm sure that the answer involves having a team and getting tapped into someone like you who's like clearly enthusiastic and passionate about books. But what would you say to someone that says, I just don't know if I can have the recurring focus. I don't know if I can stick with it. And even if I have a team and I can meet and figure it out every week, I just don't know if I have the 6 months or a year or whatever to see it through. What's the answer?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, can I give everyone a really easy method of writing a best-selling book?
Let's
Or
do it.
something they can do it really quickly. So, and I did this with my very first book, and that's just it's sit down and write down 20 questions that are frequently asked about your industry or your business. Write down those 20 questions. These are questions that you know how to answer. You answer them every day. In fact, you get sick of answering some of them, and but it's in your memory bank. You can riff on it off the top of your head. So write down 20 frequently asked questions. Maybe write down 10 questions that people should be asking. Okay. And these are the ones like if they just knew a little bit more, they would, they would ask that question. And then put a microphone in front of you or grab your smartphone. And there's some great apps like Rev or Otter that you can just dictate your answers to these questions because you already know them. Okay. Have those transcribed. That is now your core manuscript. Yes, it's going to need some work. Okay. But the hardest part about writing a book is getting the information from your head to paper or to a Google Doc. That's the hardest part. And if you can just do this, then you're already speaking the language of your industry because you are addressing those frequently asked questions. So you're hitting your target market square on. And by the way, you don't have to go super deep on these things. You don't have to write, you know, the most creative, unique thing in order to experience the benefits of being an author. Okay. If you can address those frequently asked questions, then you can create that content. Then it's a matter of editing and layout and publishing. And there are people around that can help you with those things. You do not have to learn how to do all those things. You do not have to develop that entire skill set. There are people that can do that for you. So case in point on this, my first book is called The Video Tractor Meme. I wrote it in 2013 or 2014. And I called my business partner up. I said, hey, we need to write a book for our business. And he goes, okay, great. What are we going to write about? I said, meet me in the conference room tomorrow. We'll figure it out. We sat down and we wrote down frequently asked questions of our business. We dropped a microphone on the conference table and we spoke the answers to those questions. Each one of those answers became a chapter to the book. And 30 days later, we launched that book. It became the #1 best-selling book in small business marketing, #1 best-selling book in entrepreneurialism. And it was sitting there #1 over Dave Ramsey, Malcolm Gladwell, John Maxwell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we just did this, by the way, as a proof of concept. We actually weren't planning to do anything with the book, but it brought us our first 5-digit client, and it brought us a bunch of people who were like, how did you do that? We need this for our business, et cetera. And it was the foundation. It really started Ignite Press for us. And so now actually we've published 150 so far best-selling books on Amazon for our clients. And it's been a blast. You do not have to write. In fact, I tell people, remember, you are writing a book, not the book. Okay. You are writing not the only book you're ever going to write. This doesn't need to be your opus. This doesn't need to be your legacy, though we do publish books that are people's legacies. It needs to be an effective piece for your business so that you can enjoy the authority and expert status that comes with authorship. And that method I just gave you is just one way to write a book, and it's one way to do it very quickly.
And an excellent method it is, and very doable, as you said, with the phones and the apps and the recording and the transcribing. They can very quickly get that basic structure in place, which, as you said, there's more to do, but that's on its own, that's a heck of a lot further than a lot of people get when it comes to their book. And you've touched on what I think is like the #1 and the #2 biggest secrets in writing, as far as I'm concerned. And #1 is this question and answer style. And I can't believe it took me so many years to figure it out. When I was in school and they said write a essay and it has to be 3 pages, and I would say, the dictionary definition of the Civil War is this, and just like pontificate. But then you realize that all real communication is like what we're doing here, right? A question and answer. Question is, I have a problem. How do I do this? Answer, I answer it. And then it's clear when you've answered it. And then that leads to the next question. And that's a very easily digestible bucket brigade A to B kind of format. And it's what we've all learned and how to communicate in person on the phone. And then secret number two that you mentioned there, which I heard years ago and it blew me away because it was so simple, is don't put everything that you know into a book, and also don't try to solve your whole industry. Just explain what you do and solve your problem and tap into your business. And so all of your answers and your stories here are just making me realize that sure, there are minor details to be figured out, and sure, there are a million things to solve and all these ways that could go wrong and derail us, but what's most important is our goal, and to have fun and get excited and make something happen. And so how do people make something happen? Because clearly, obviously, if we do it by ourselves, it's like trying to learn karate by yourself, trying to learn hot tar roofing or driving a car by yourself. It's no fun. You have to go out there and do it. And you have to have that driving instructor to say, hey, don't drive into that stop sign. So in order to prevent driving into the stop sign and have the team that helps us out, where does Ignite Press come in? And if someone says, oh, little old poor me with the low self-esteem, I don't know if I should have a book or if I could have a book, how do we change minds and where do we go to get on the right track?
All right, before we go there, I have to say you just made a reference of hot tar roofing, and I had to find out, is that based in personal experience? Do you have some personal experience with hot tar roofing, or that's just random? Because that is
It's
such a
random,
specific thing. Okay,
but
I'm
it's something I
impressed.
never want to do it.
I'm no, me neither. I'm that sounds like one of the worst. Not only I can't stand the smell of the stuff either. Um, so let me go back to the question. Yeah. So first, a lot of people do get intimidated. That's that whole like, who am I? Right? Who am I to write a book? Who am I? Do I really have something unique to bring? Okay. Well, first, you don't have to be writing the first book on your topic, and you don't have to worry that other people have said some of the things you're saying before, because there are people out there that are uniquely keyed to hear it from you. There's something about your experience and voice and the combination of their experience that makes you to be the voice to share it with them. It's kind of like that, the baby penguins that can hear their mother penguin, among a million penguins, or something. So if you don't share the message, they may not receive that message. And so that question isn't, who am I to, hold myself out to do this? It's like, who are you to withhold it? Like if you don't share it, they may not get it. And that seems like the more selfish play, is to not share it. So, don't worry about whether you are the expert. You know more about the topic than your reader. That makes you the expert. So you need to educate them. Okay. And then as far as how to work with us, simply, um, we typically we specialize in nonfiction for business owners, for coaches, consultants, speakers, executives. Those are the type of people that we typically work with. And you can reach out to us at Ignite Press, ignitepress.us is the website. And I, all day long, am having conversations with people who have ideas for books or already have manuscripts and they don't know what to do with them or how best to bring them out. So then we basically carry them the rest of the way. And that includes editing the book and laying out the book and launching it. So it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Walmart.com and every other online bookstore. And then we do the Amazon bestseller launch with them, like I did with my first book. And I love what I do because I work with amazing people and I get to see them experience authorship. I mean, holding your book in your hand for the first time, that's a crazy experience. Seeing your book on Amazon over the top of Malcolm Gladwell and Dave Ramsey and all these other people or whoever else is in your space, that's incredible. I had a conversation, it was just earlier today, that was hilarious, Robert. And that was another author who, after he became number one, I think, and he was beating Gary Vaynerchuk. He then sent a message to Gary Vaynerchuk. Hey, I'm outselling you today. I may not outsell you every day, but today I am. And so it just cracks me up.
That is the way to get some attention, that demonstration of higher value. And you're right that it is a cool feeling. I mean, imagine some future author watching or listening to this podcast and they do the right thing and they find you and they contact you and someday they open up LinkedIn or Facebook and they see someone like holding their book on an image or are talking about their book on a YouTube video, with seeing a Google alert for their name of their book and saying, "What's this?" You click, and someone else out there in some other state, country, continent, whatever, is amazed and their life is being helped and changed by your book. That's a really cool feeling. And you mentioned even about how there's different starting points, right? Like they might have a manuscript and it needs to be brought to life with you. And just last week, I got a client who he's an attorney and he wrote a book in 1993 and then it sat and he forgot about it. And then years later, he had some colleague and she was bragging about her book. And he's like, "Oh, hey, I have a book too." And she's like, "Oh, great. What's the name of it?" And he literally couldn't remember the name of his own book that he wrote. And then a few months ago, he like went to a publisher and got it done right and got the book put out there. And so that's a cool story, right? That
Um,
maybe there's something that's sitting in a pile and it's maybe 80, 90% finished. And I mean, there's a reason why you started it. There's a reason why you brought it that far, but then maybe life got in the way or you just got blocked because you were trying to do it yourself. You're working too hard and maybe
get
it's time to
overwhelmed with
stop.
the options.
Yeah, overwhelmed with options, and especially today, and it won't get any easier, right? There won't be less options tomorrow as far as the technology, the publishing, the platforms, and the clarity and the simplicity is needed. A team is needed, especially at ignitepress.us. And so this has been a great conversation. And so if you're someone who's in any of these situations, you want a book, you need a book can help you, then Everett O'Keefe at ignitepress.us is your guy. But before we let you go, Everett, I have to know the knight in shining armor behind there. What is that? Is there a person inside? What's the story?
Yeah, so thanks, Robert. And for anyone who's just listening by audio, yes, behind me is a full suit of armor. Um, the first book I ever read was Ivanhoe. I read it in the fourth grade, and I was taken with the whole thing of knights and armor and all of that. So as I grew older, I was like, man, I would love to have a suit of armor. And when I became a young professional in my 20s, I started acquiring some of this stuff. And then there came a point where my wife said, honey, this stuff would look really great in your office. Which, of course, for anyone who's married is code for get it out of my house. And so, sure enough, it is here. The funny thing is my kids, when they were in junior high school, let their teachers know that I had this, and they asked me to bring it in for show and tell. And so I did the first year, and then they asked me to do it the second year. And honestly, it was such a hassle to do it because it's heavy and they've got all these pieces and everything, that I decided to make a business out of it because, we're all entrepreneurs. And so I created a business called Nights at School. And I would go into junior highs and speak to between 400 and 700 students at a time. And I'd have them come up on stage and try on helmets. And I would always pick some uh, some diminutive girl to hit me over the head with a mace. One time I made the mistake of picking the softball star, and I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, so that was kind of a little side business that I did just to help, I mean, help share. I'm just such a fun thing to have a suit of armor and let people experience that and learn more about medieval history too. Crazy, right?
It is. And it's one of your many unexpected journey startup type stories, such as the making the book as a proof of concept and then it turns into a bestseller. Same thing, you take a suit of armor to a show and tell and it turns into a whole business. Those are the best kinds of stories. And so if someone out there has this sort of untapped potential, they put out their book, who knows what it can lead to? And the only way to know is try. And the only thing to do now is go to ignitepress.us. So it's been a blast. And I mean, my brain is just completely ignited, to use your term here, Everett. And I'm glad that we talked today.
Well, Robert, thanks for what you're doing. You are helping to equip so many people in so many ways. Um, I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur out there and to be looking for marketing resources, and what you are bringing to the table is critical. So keep doing it, man. Keep doing it.
And you as well. It's a disservice if we both don't.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Robert.
Thank you.